Welcome back to our class. In our last video, we have learned about asset sell-offs or divestitures, which refer to the practice of selling company assets. And a seller typically receives cash in return. And we have learned that divestitures may trigger a tax liability if the proceeds from the sale are larger than the tax base of the target asset. Taxation comes at a cost to the selling company's shareholders. In this video, we will introduce two alternative methods for companies to dispose a subsidiary without triggering a tax liability, and they are spin-offs and split-offs. A spin-off involves a complete separation of a subsidiary from its mother company by separately listing the subsidiary through an IPO. After a spin-off, the subsidiary will go public as an independent company, and the subsidiary will have its own management and board of directors that are independent from those of its mother company. After the separation, you may wonder how the old shareholders retain their beneficial rights in the new public company. The practice is that in a spin-off, the equity ownership of the public subsidiary will be distributed to the old shareholders on a pro rata basis, which means if you have 1% in the old company, you can get 1% distribution of shares in the new company. And you can see the ownership structures in the parent and the subsidiary should be the same. And there is no cash transaction involved in the whole process. In contrast to the divestiture, a spin-off allows for a complete separation of companies without generating any cash proceeds for the parent company. Academic studies on spin-offs generally find a positive wealth effect for selling shareholders, with evidence that upon the release of spin-off announcements, the share price of the parent company tends to increase. The positive price impact means shareholders react positively to spin-off announcements. Studies also show that cross-industry spin-off transactions can lead to improvements in financial performance of the parent company, such as return on assets, the ROA. A possible explanation for the positive impact is that a spin-off allows a firm to adjust its business focus and remove the distraction of non-core entities. Besides, there is also likely to be value creation when the subsidiary is separately listed and valued as an independent company. An example of a corporate spin-off is the Western Union spin-off by First Data Corp in 2006. Western Union used to be part of First Data Corp, a payment processing company. During year 2004 to 2005, the payment processing business of First Data faced significant competition from its rivals. One bright spot of the First Data was Western Union, but it was hard for investors to fully discover the value of Western Union when it was privately held by First Data Corp. The spin-off of Western Union proved successful, and Western Union is now recognized as the largest money transfer company in the world. Next, I would like to introduce split-off. A split-off is similar to a spin-off in that the subsidiary will be separately listed as a public company and will have its own management and board of directors that are independent from those of the parent company. So, a split-off is also a complete separation of a subsidiary and its parent structurally and operationally. A split-off also does not generate any new cash to the parent company, so the tax treatment is also the same as for a spin-off. The biggest difference between a spin-off and a split-off is in ownership structure of equity. As we have learned, in a spin-off, the new public company shares the same ownership structure with its original parent company because the shareholders receive shares in the new company on a pro rata basis according to their ownership of the parent company. But a split-off involves an exchange offer, where shareholders are offered to exchange parent company stock for subsidiary stock. And when shareholders exchange their shares, the number of shares outstanding of the parent company would decrease. So, in essence, a split-off effectively resembles a stock repurchase, where the parent company buys back its own shares using subsidiary stock as a consideration. Although a spin-off and a split-off share many similarities, companies engage in spin-offs much more frequently than split-off. A possible reason is that a split-off can be more difficult to implement because it involves an exchange of parent stock for subsidiary stock, and valuation of subsidiary stock is required to determine the exchange ratio. In practice, a split-off is often preceded by an equity carve-out, which helps to establish the market value of the subsidiary stock. We will discuss equity carve-out in the next video. As for the impact of split-offs on shareholder wealth, there is limited studies looking at this subject because empirical studies would usually demand a large sample to generate statistically meaningful results, but split-offs are relatively rare. So, we are unaware of any systematic empirical evidence on split-offs, but given the similarity with spin-offs, split-offs should also have positive impacts on shareholder wealth. Besides, split-offs resemble stock repurchase, and stock repurchases are generally known to have positive impact on share price, because repurchasing of parent stock tends to signal the parent stock is undervalued. An example of a split-off is McDonald's split-off of Chipotle Mexican Grill in year 2006. A total of 18.8 million shares of McDonald's common stock were exchanged for 16.5 million shares of Chipotle. In an exchange offer, a total of 262 million shares of McDonald's common stock were tendered, which means 7% of the tendered shares can be exchanged into Chipotle shares. So, here we have a case of oversubscription, and the final exchange would be made on a prorated basis. The disposal of Chipotle is among McDonald's strategy to dispose all of its non-core businesses and refocus on its main McDonald's chain. Okay, in this video, we have discussed spin-offs and split-offs, and we have discussed their similarities and differences. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we will move on to talk about equity carve-out.